Tonight, we will move slowly through a place of stone walls, wooden doors, warm fires, and peaceful routines. We will leave behind the noise of the modern day and step into a calmer rhythm, where time is measured by sunrise, by bells, by meals in the great hall, and by the soft fading of light across old courtyards. As you listen, imagine a wide countryside stretching under a pale sky. Imagine a hill rising gently above fields and trees. Upon that hill stands a castle, built of gray stone, solid and still, watching over the land below. Its towers are not hurried, its gates do not rush. Everything here seems to move at the patient pace of the seasons. This is not a tale of battle or alarm. It is a quiet walk through everyday life. We are here to notice the simple details, the sound of footsteps on worn stairways, the smell of bread baking in an oven, the flicker of firelight on rough walls, the brushing of wool sleeves, the low voices of servants beginning the day. So, if you like, let your thoughts grow softer now. Let the castle come into view, little by little, as if through the first light of dawn. We begin in medieval Europe, in a time when castles were homes as much as strongholds, and when life inside their walls followed gentle patterns of duty, comfort, and rest. Our journey takes us to the High Middle Ages, somewhere between the 12th and 14th centuries, in a countryside of forests, streams, meadows, and farmland. The exact kingdom matters less than the feeling of the place, because many castles shared a similar life. Whether in England, France, or another part of Western Europe, a castle stood as the center of local order. It was the home of a lord and his household, a place of work for many servants, and often a point of safety and gathering for the surrounding community. The castle itself rises from the land with a kind of quiet strength. Its stone walls are thick and cool. Its towers stand above the fields, where sheep move slowly in the distance, and strips of farmland lie in long bands of brown and green. Below the hill, a village may rest near a stream with timber houses, thatched roofs, kitchen gardens, and narrow paths pressed into the ground by many feet. Around the castle, the air carries familiar scents of earth, grass, wood smoke, horses, damp stone, and cooking fires. In spring, the wind may bring the smell of wet soil and growing herbs. In summer, it might carry warm hay and sunlit dust. In autumn, there is the scent of apples, fallen leaves, and fresh-cut grain. In winter, the cold air sharpens every sound, and smoke rises straight from chimneys into the pale sky. This is a world lit mostly by sunlight, candles, rushlights, and fire. Day matters deeply. Morning begins early, often with the first hint of light. Tasks are arranged around the hours of the sun. Even the design of the castle reflects this relationship with nature. Windows are small in many rooms, especially in older stone buildings, and the bright parts of the day are precious. A warm patch of sun crossing a wall or a bench is noticed and appreciated. A medieval castle is not empty and silent. It is full of life, but it is a different kind of life from our own. Sound travels differently here. Voices echo in stone passages. Doors creak on heavy hinges. Metal tools strike wood in workshops. Hooves knock on packed earth. Somewhere, chickens scratch in the yard. Somewhere else, a cook stirs a pot or kneads dough on a broad table. At the center of many castles is the Great Hall, the social heart of the household. This is where meals are served, guests are received, and much of daily life unfolds. It is a large room, often open and airy by medieval standards, with long tables, benches, a high table for the lord and lady, and a hearth or fireplace that gives warmth and light. Tapestries or cloth hangings may soften the walls and help keep out the chill. Above, dark timber beams cross the ceiling, and smoke, in earlier periods, may drift upward before finding its way out through vents. Other parts of the castle support daily life in quieter ways. There are kitchens, storerooms, pantries, and buttery rooms for ale and wine. There are sleeping chambers, both grand and plain. There may be a chapel where prayers mark the day. There are stables for horses, barns for supplies, workshops for repairs, and open spaces in the bailey where servants, laborers, and animals move through their routines. Though we often imagine castles as stern places, they were also homes. Children were raised here, clothes were mended here, bread was baked here, stories were told here, letters were read here, and fires were tended here. People laughed softly, worried quietly, rested deeply after long work, and watched the weather with careful attention. Life was practical, but it was also human and familiar in its rhythms. Now, let us imagine the castle at dawn. The sky is still pale, touched with silver before the sun fully rises. The fields below the castle are wrapped in a thin morning mist. Dew rests on grass, herbs, and the wooden posts of fences. In the distance, a rooster calls from the village. A dog stirs in the yard. Somewhere in the castle, a servant rises from a narrow bed and pulls a woolen blanket aside. Inside the walls, the air is cool. Stone keeps the memory of the night. Floors are cold beneath bare feet or simple leather shoes. In smaller chambers, the fire has burned low, leaving only a faint warmth in the ashes. A servant bends to coax fresh flame from the embers. Dry kindling catches. A little light returns to the room. In the kitchen, one of the first places to awaken, movement begins before full sunrise. Fires must be lit early if bread is to be baked and pottage prepared. Water must be carried. Wooden bowls, iron pots, knives, ladles, and cloths are set in order. The kitchen is a place of steady still, not haste. Work begins quietly, often with little conversation beyond a few low words. Nearby, in the bakehouse, the smell of yesterday's flour still lingers. A baker or kitchen servant checks the oven, feels the warmth, and prepares the dough. Bread is the foundation of daily food in much of medieval Europe. It is simple, necessary, and deeply familiar. The shape and quality of the loaf may differ depending on rank and resources, but bread belongs to every day. In the stable yard, grooms begin their own early tasks. Horses must be fed, brushed, watered, and checked. Straw is shifted, leather tack examined, wooden gates opened. The horses breathe clouds into the cool air. Their movements are calm and heavy. The stable smells of hay, leather, warm animal coats, and earth. At the gatehouse, the watch changes or settles after the night's quiet hours. A guard stretches, looking over the waking countryside. The view is broad from here. Fields spread outward, and paths run between village and woodland. Travelers may appear later in the day, perhaps a messenger, a merchant, a priest, or a visitor from a neighboring estate. But for now, the road is still. As the light grows stronger, the castle slowly reveals itself in detail. the rough face of stone walls warms from gray to gold. Moss in the cracks appears rich and green. Wooden balconies, shutters, and roof beams catch the first sun. Pigeons stir on ledges. Sparrows gather in the courtyard, searching for crumbs. This is one of the loveliest moments in castle life. Not the crowded meal, not the duties of midday, but the beginning. The brief hour when the whole household is waking and every room feels on the edge of activity. A castle household is made up of many people, each with a place in its daily pattern. At the top are the lord and lady, whose chambers are more private and more comfortable than most. Their rooms may have finer beds, carved chests, curtains for warmth, and a little more color in fabrics and furnishings. Yet even these rooms are not luxurious in the modern sense. They are practical spaces shaped by cold winters, dim light, and the need for storage and protection. The lord may oversee lands, rents, legal matters, and obligations to greater nobles or the crown. The lady often manages large parts of the household itself, including stores, servants, textiles, hospitality, and sometimes estate business when needed. In many castles, her work is quiet but important, woven into almost every part of domestic life. Children may also live in the castle, along with relatives, guests, squires, and attendants. A noble child's day includes lessons, prayers, manners, and supervised play. Their world is structured but not joyless. They learn early how a household works, how to speak properly, how to ride, sew in some cases, or serve at table. Then there are the many servants and workers who make castle life possible. Cooks, bakers, laundresses, maids, grooms, porters, pages, carpenters, blacksmiths, scribes, stewards, and guards each contribute to the smooth running of the place. Some live within the castle walls, others come and go from the village or nearby lands. Their work may be hard, but it is often regular, and in that regularity there is a kind of order. A steward or seneschal may help manage the household's stores and business. He keeps account of grain, ale, meat, candles, cloth, and countless daily needs. Medieval life depends on storage and planning. A castle cannot simply fetch what it lacks from a nearby shop at any hour. Supplies must be gathered, recorded, preserved, and used with care. Many of the people inside the castle know each other well. They work together day after day, season after season. They understand the patterns of the kitchen, the hall, the stable, the garden, the chapel, and the gate. Their lives are shaped by service, but also by habit, companionship, and shared duty. As morning grows, people begin to dress and prepare for the hours ahead. Medieval clothing is layered, practical, and made from materials close to the land. Wool is common, warm, and useful. Linen is worn next to the skin when possible. Better-off households may have finer woven cloth, richer dyes, fur trim, or embroidered edges, but even simple garments are made with care. A man working in the yard may wear a tunic belted at the waist, hose on the legs, and sturdy shoes. A woman in service may wear a long gown of wool or linen, with an apron and a head covering to keep hair neat and protected. In colder weather, cloaks and hoods are essential, and sleeves are valued for warmth as much as appearance. Clothing is not thrown away quickly in this world. It is repaired, handed down, patched, adjusted, and used well. Needles, thread, and skilled hands are as important to daily comfort as ovens and firewood. In many households, sewing is constant background work, done near windows in daylight or near the hearth in the evening. Breakfast in the medieval castle is often light by later standards. Depending on custom and status, some people may eat bread, ale, cheese, or leftover pottage from the previous day. A more formal meal comes later. Food is deeply tied to rank, season, and religion. Fast days shape what is eaten. Harvest season changes the table. Winter stores determine what can be served in the cold months. The kitchen garden is one of the castle's quiet treasures. There, herbs and vegetables grow in ordered beds: parsley, sage, leeks, onions, cabbages, beans, and perhaps medicinal plants tended with knowledge passed through generations. Fruit trees may stand nearby, and in good seasons there are apples, pears, or plums to dry, stew, or store. Water must be carried, wood must be chopped, ash must be cleared, and floors must be swept. Nothing in castle life is automatic. Every comfort depends on someone's labor. Warmth comes because someone tended the fire. Clean linen appears because someone washed, beat, dried, and folded it. A polished cup, a fresh loaf, a swept hall, a prepared horse, each simple thing is the result of patient hands. And yet for all this work, there are pauses. A servant crossing the yard may stop for a moment in sunlight. A groom may rest one hand on a horse's neck. A child may stand near a window and watch birds move over the fields. A cook may breathe in the smell of bread just as it comes out of the oven. Medieval life can be demanding, but it is also full of these small, steady moments. By now, the great hall is beginning to wake fully. The rushes on the floor have been freshened or swept. Benches are set in place. The table boards are laid out. Light falls in from high windows, touching wooden cups, pottery, and polished metal with a soft glow. A servant moves quietly from one end of the room to the other, adjusting cloth, checking the hearth, making sure all is ready for the day's gatherings. The hall is not only a dining room, it is a public room, a shared room, a place of presence. Here the household can be seen in its order. Here meals mark the passing hours. Here messages are delivered. Visiting travelers may be welcomed, and seasonal changes can be felt in what is served, what is worn, and how close people sit to the fire. Even when the room is busy, there is something deeply restful about its purpose. It gathers life together. It offers warmth in winter, shade in summer, and routine in every season. It is a place where the castle breathes.
Soon, the day will continue into busier paths, into village connections, market customs, household traditions, and the many forms of work that keep the castle and its lands alive. But for now, in this first slow beginning, we remain in the morning light, among stone walls and gentle sounds, while the castle settles into another ordinary day. And in that ordinary day, there is a quiet beauty. As the morning fully opens, the castle settles into its daytime rhythm. The first quiet tasks of dawn now become a gentle hum of activity. In the courtyard, boots cross packed earth. Pails are carried from well to kitchen, and stable doors swing open to the cool air. Smoke rises from the kitchen hearth in a pale ribbon, and somewhere above, a window shutter is pushed back to welcome the light. The day does not rush forward. It unfolds step by step, like a familiar song that everyone in the household knows by heart. Inside the castle, daily life is shaped by the needs of the building itself. Stone walls offer safety and strength, but they also hold the night's chill, so warmth must be carefully made and protected. Fires are tended in the rooms that need them most. Curtains may be drawn back from beds. Chests are opened, garments chosen, shoes tied, belts fastened. In noble chambers, attendants may help with dressing, brushing out cloaks, arranging sleeves, or bringing basins of water for washing hands and face. Washing is simple by modern standards, but it is still part of order and dignity. A basin, a cloth, a jug of water, and perhaps a little soap made from ash and fat may be enough for the morning. Cleanliness is valued where possible, especially before meals and prayers, though the work of heating water and carrying it means such comfort must be planned rather than assumed. The rooms of a medieval castle are practical spaces. Furnishings are fewer than many people today might expect. A bed may be one of the most valuable items in a chamber, especially if it has curtains, wool blankets, linen sheets, or a feather mattress. Chests store clothing, documents, and treasured household goods. Tables and stools can be moved. Wall hangings soften drafts. Candlesticks, carved boxes, simple pottery, and metal cups all have their place. Nothing is chosen lightly, and almost everything is made to last. Below the chambers of the Lord and Lady, many others sleep in smaller rooms, alcoves, or shared spaces. Servants may rest on pallets, straw mattresses, or blankets laid near the places where they work. Their days begin early, and often before sunrise they are already moving through passageways with bundles of kindling, baskets of bread, folded linens, or buckets of water. In the village near the castle, morning is unfolding in much the same way. Peasant cottages wake with their own rhythms. Smoke lifts from low roofs. Doors open onto narrow paths. Chickens move through yards. A woman may knead dough while keeping watch over a pot set by the fire. A man may step out toward the fields, carrying tools over one shoulder. Children help where they can, feeding animals, fetching water, gathering sticks, or watching younger brothers and sisters. These village homes are usually made of timber, wattle, and daub, with thatched roofs and earth or plank floors. They are modest, but they are busy with life. A single room may serve many purposes: cooking, eating, sleeping, mending, and warming by the fire. Chests, benches, stools, baskets, and shelves hold the family's possessions. Herbs may hang drying from beams, and the smell of smoke often lingers in cloth, hair, and walls alike. Clothing, too, reflects both work and weather. Most ordinary people wear garments of wool or linen, unspun or locally made, dyed in gentle, earthy tones when dyes are affordable. Browns, soft greens, grays, faded blues, and natural cream shades are common. Aprons protect dresses and tunics from flour, ash, and mud. Hoods shield against wind and rain. Cloaks wrap around shoulders in colder seasons. The clothes may be plain, but they are made with understanding, stitched to allow movement, warmth, and long use. As the castle household moves toward its first formal meal of the day, the kitchen grows busier. Bread is sliced, pottage stirred, and ale drawn. Medieval ale is an everyday drink in many households, often safer and more reliable than water that has sat too long. Cheese, onions, herbs, beans, and coarse bread form the simple comfort of many meals. In wealthier households, there may also be fresh fish, eggs, better wheat bread, or meat when the season and the calendar allow. The rhythm of eating is deeply tied to rank and custom. In the great hall, the household gathers according to order. The lord and lady sit at the high table, while others sit below according to status. Yet, despite this arrangement, meals also bring the household together. The hall fills with shared sound, wooden cups set down, knives touching trenchers, quiet conversation, the rustle of sleeves, the occasional bark of a dog hoping for scraps. There is a calm usefulness to the food. It is not only nourishment, but a sign that the day is properly arranged. Bread has been baked, ale has been brewed, salt has preserved what needed keeping. Gardens have been tended, grain has been milled, cows have been milked. Every meal carries within it the work of many hands. Children, whether noble or ordinary, grow up inside these patterns. A noble boy may begin training in manners, riding, and service from an early age. He learns how to stand, how to speak politely, how to observe the behavior of older men, and how to move through the household with respect. A noble girl may learn household management, sewing, reading prayers, music, and the careful arts of hospitality. Village children also learn quickly, though in different ways. They help with animals, fields, spinning, gathering fuel, and small domestic tasks. Childhood exists here, but it is close to usefulness, and children are woven into the life around them from the beginning. Still, life is not only work. There are slower moments, even in the middle of duty. A girl pauses at the doorway of the bakehouse, warmed by the oven's heat. A page looks out from the wall walk over the fields below. A boy in the village crouches by a stream, watching the water pass around smooth stones. A woman mending a sleeve sits near a patch of sunlight and lets the warmth rest on her hands. These small pauses are part of the texture of medieval life. Though the castle is a place of order and responsibility, it is also a place of human connection.
People meet and speak constantly in the course of the day. In hallways, kitchens, stables, gardens, and yards, news travels by quiet conversation. Someone has seen travelers on the road. Someone has heard that the river is running high. Someone knows that a nearby village will hold a fair after the next holy day. The world may seem smaller than ours, but it is rich in local knowledge, and people remain deeply aware of seasons, roads, harvests, births, marriages, and changes in weather. One of the most important parts of social life is the church calendar. Medieval time is not only counted by months and labor, but by holy days, saints' days, feast days, and fasts. The chapel within the castle, or the parish church in the village, gives spiritual rhythm to the week and the year. Bells mark the hours. Prayers shape the beginning and end of important tasks. Festivals bring color and break the sameness of ordinary days. On feast days, the atmosphere changes gently but noticeably. Better garments may be brought out. Tables may hold more varied food. Music may be heard more often. People who spend most of their week bent over practical work now stand together in celebration, in worship, in shared food, or in simple recreation. A holiday in medieval life is not always extravagant, but it is treasured because it opens a little more room for rest and gathering. Markets and fairs are also important social spaces. On market day, the roads leading toward a town or village grow more active. Farmers bring eggs, grain, or vegetables. Craftsmen display shoes, belts, knives, cloth, or pottery. Merchants may bring salt, spices, wax, fine cloth, or small luxuries from farther away. Voices mingle in a low, steady flow. Animals shift in pens. Carts creak. Children watch everything with bright attention. For the people of the castle, these places matter not only for trade, but for connection. Goods are exchanged, but so are stories and practical information. Prices, weather, travel conditions, and local disputes all move through the market alongside sacks of grain and bundles of wool. Even those who remain within the castle walls feel the influence of these wider exchanges because the objects of daily life, cloth, iron tools, spices, lamp oil, parchment, often come through such networks. Within the castle itself, culture appears in quieter forms. There may be music in the hall, especially in the evening or on special days. A harp, flute, or small stringed instrument may accompany a song sung in a gentle voice. Stories may be told aloud after supper, sometimes by a guest, sometimes by a resident who remembers a tale from long ago. These are not always grand, heroic performances. Sometimes they are simply familiar narratives that people know well and enjoy hearing again. Textiles also carry culture into daily life. Embroidery, weaving, spinning, and sewing are not only practical tasks, they are also forms of beauty and expression. The borders of a sleeve, the pattern on a hanging, the careful repair of a household cloth, these reveal patience and taste. Women in noble households may supervise large amounts of textile work, while village women spin wool or flax into thread that supports entire households and local economies. Family life, too, is central. In the castle, meals, lessons, marriages, and household planning all revolve around kinship and loyalty. In the village, family is the basic shape of survival and belonging. Grandparents, parents, children, and servants may all share labor and space in close ways. Advice passes between generations not through books alone, but through habit, memory, and example. A mother shows a daughter how to bake, brew, or mend. A father shows a son how to handle tools, tend oxen, or judge the sky before rain. Even gestures of politeness are important parts of culture. How one greets a superior, how one serves at table, how one gives thanks, how one steps aside in a passage. These small acts create the social fabric of the castle. They help maintain peace, order, and mutual recognition in a world where everyone's place matters. By late morning and into afternoon, work spreads outward in all directions from the castle. The Lord's household depends on much more than the visible life inside the walls. Beyond the gate lie fields, barns, mills, orchards, fish ponds, woods, and pasture land. The castle is the center of a wider estate, and the prosperity of that estate rests on the steady labor of many people through every season of the year. In the fields, much depends on timing. Plowing, sowing, weeding, harvesting, threshing, and storing all must happen in their proper order. A missed season cannot easily be recovered. Medieval people watched the sky closely. Rain, frost, wind, and sunlight affect food, income, and comfort in direct ways. To live well means to understand the land deeply and to respect its limits. Oxen move slowly across the soil, drawing plows through long strips of earth. Men guide them with practiced voices. Women and children may follow with seed or later help gather what has grown. In summer, hay must be cut and dried. In autumn, grain is collected and brought to the barn. The sight of a full storehouse is one of the quietest and deepest forms of reassurance in this world. The mill is another essential place of work. Grain becomes flour only through effort,
and the sound of the mill wheel turning in water or the grinding of millstones marks an important stage in the chain of daily bread. The blacksmith's forge is equally vital. There, iron is heated, shaped, and repaired into nails, hinges, horseshoes, tools, and fittings. The cooper makes barrels for ale, wine, grain, and salted food. Every trade supports another. Back inside the castle, labor continues without pause. In the kitchen, cooks prepare the main meal, balancing what is fresh with what has been stored. In storerooms, salted meat, dried peas, onions, and grain must be checked for spoilage. In the buttery, ale and wine are measured and managed carefully. In the laundry, linens are scrubbed, rinsed, wrung, and dried when weather allows. In sewing spaces, garments are patched before holes become too large. This is a world of maintenance where care is one of the most valuable skills. The steward keeps accounts because survival depends not only on labor but on record and balance. How much grain remains? How many candles are left? How much salt must be purchased? Are the hens laying well? Has enough wood been brought in before winter? These questions shape the life of the household as surely as bells and prayers do. The castle garden provides more than beauty. It may contain herbs for cooking and healing, beans for the pot, and plants valued for both medicine and scent. Monastic knowledge, local practice, and household experience all contribute to the use of plants. A woman in the household may know which herb soothes a cough, which plant helps flavor broth, and which flowers can be dried and stored.
In every part of this world, survival is made gentle through repetition and skill. People do not conquer daily life so much as tend it. They rake, sweep, stitch, grind, stir, lift, feed, mend, count, carry, and wait. It is a life of many small actions, each simple on its own, yet together enough to keep a castle warm, fed, and orderly. And as the afternoon light begins to soften on the stone walls, the work of the day continues in this same patient spirit. Soon the castle will move toward evening, toward quieter rooms, fading sunlight, supper, prayer, and the long, peaceful approach of night. By afternoon, the castle has reached the fuller middle of its day. The freshness of morning has softened into a steadier warmth, and the shadows in the courtyard now fall in sharper shapes across the ground. The sounds of work continue, but they have changed in tone. The first busy urgency of beginning is gone. What remains is the long, measured continuation of tasks already underway. In the great hall, the bright angle of light has moved across the floor. Dust drifts in the sunbeams like fine gold. The benches, tables, and tall-backed chair at the high table seem quieter now, resting between meals. A servant may pass through carrying folded cloth or collecting cups. Somewhere near the hearth, ashes are shifted and fresh wood is laid ready for later. In private chambers, some of the work of household management continues in calm concentration. The lady of the castle, or women serving under her direction, may be occupied with textiles. There are sleeves to mend, hems to reinforce, blankets to inspect, and lengths of cloth to cut or store. Fine needlework may also have its place here, especially in noble households, where embroidered borders, devotional cloths, and decorative hangings bring both beauty and order to a room. Spinning is one of the quiet sounds of medieval life. The turn of the spindle, the drawing out of wool, the steady movement of practiced fingers. These are the soft background rhythms of many afternoons. Thread begins as fleece, and by time and skill it becomes cloth, then garments, bedding, sacks, curtains, and coverings. Few materials are more central to daily comfort, and few tasks are more constant. In another part of the castle, accounts may be reviewed. Rolls of parchment are opened. Tallies are spoken aloud in a low voice. The steward, clerk, or another trusted official may note deliveries of grain, ale, wine, or firewood. He may count hens, estimate stores, review rents, or record purchases made from nearby towns. This written side of castle life is not always visible, but it is essential. Stone walls and heavy doors alone do not make a household secure. Careful memory, accurate record, and orderly planning are just as necessary. The Lord himself may spend part of the afternoon hearing local matters, receiving visitors, or overseeing estate concerns. Medieval castles are homes, but they are also centers of authority. Tenants may come with questions. A messenger may arrive carrying news from another manor or from a distant noble house. A priest, merchant, or traveling official may be offered a place to rest and something to eat before continuing on his road. Hospitality is a duty as well as a custom, and castles are often places where the movement of the wider world briefly pauses. Yet even in these moments of responsibility, the pace remains slower than one might imagine. Letters do not arrive in piles. News does not flow every hour. People wait. Horses tire. Roads are muddy, narrow, and long. Much of life is shaped by distances that cannot be hurried. Because of this, there are natural spaces of stillness between events. The waiting itself becomes part of the rhythm. Afternoon is often the time when quieter forms of labor come into focus. In workshops near the outer court or in sheltered corners of the estate, craftsmen continue their steady work. A carpenter shaves a piece of oak with careful strokes, shaping a stool leg, a chest panel, or a beam for repair. The smell of fresh-cut wood rises warm and clean in the air. Nearby, a cooper may fit staves together for a barrel that will hold ale, grain, or salted food. Everything made here has a purpose, and usefulness gives beauty to even the simplest object. The blacksmith's forge is one of the most vivid places on the estate, though even here the mood need not be harsh. The sound of hammer on metal rings out in measured intervals. Sparks lift and vanish. Iron is shaped into hinges, nails, buckles, tools, and horseshoes. The forge smells of smoke, hot metal, leather, and coal. Though the work requires strength, it is also an art of patience and judgment. Heat must be right. Timing must be right. A rushed hand would spoil good material. In the kitchens, afternoon means preparation for the evening meal. Vegetables are chopped. Broth is checked. Meat, when available, may be roasted, stewed, or salted for future use. Fish appears often on certain holy days. Herbs from the garden are added for flavor and comfort. The kitchen is one of the warmest spaces in the castle, full of the scents of onion, bread, ale, smoke, and simmering pots. Cooks know the preferences of the household and the limits of the stores. Their work is practical, but it is also deeply attentive. Laundry, too, belongs to this world of constant care. Linen is valuable and must be washed, dried, and kept in as good a condition as possible. Larger washing may happen outside the castle walls or near a suitable water source, but smaller pieces are worked as needed, worked by hand with effort and time. Beating, soaking, rinsing, wringing, and drying are slow tasks. Once dry, the cloth may be folded into chests scented lightly with herbs, or simply the freshness of clean air. Nothing is casual in a medieval household, because almost nothing is easily replaced. A broken buckle is repaired, a torn hood is patched, a chipped bowl is still used if it can be. The culture of the castle is one of maintenance and endurance. Objects are respected because labor is visible in them. A woven cloth represents many hours. A wooden spoon came from the hand of a maker. A leather shoe has been cut, stitched, fitted, worn, and mended. This quiet economy of care shapes the atmosphere of the entire place. As afternoon stretches onward, another element remains woven through the life of the castle: prayer.
Whether through the ringing of a chapel bell, the habits of a devout household, or the rhythm of local custom, faith helps order the day. Medieval people lived close to the cycle of devotion: morning prayers, blessings before meals, feast days, fast days, saints' days, and church services all place time within a sacred pattern. Even those too busy for long reflection often move through gestures of belief that are simple, familiar, and deeply rooted. The chapel inside the castle may be small, but it is often one of the most peaceful places of all. A little colored light may enter through narrow glass. Candles flicker near an altar. The air smells faintly of wax, wood, and old stone. Here, voices are softer, steps are slower. A noblewoman may pause here alone. A chaplain may read from a manuscript. A servant may come in briefly, bow his head, and then return to work. Prayer in this world is not always separate from daily labor. It often stands beside it. A baker may cross herself before beginning. A mother may whisper a blessing over a sleeping child. A traveler setting out on the road may ask for protection. This does not stop the practical demands of life, but it gives them meaning and shape. The church calendar also changes the texture of the year. At certain times there is more fasting, more solemnity, more restraint in the meals. At other times there is celebration, with brighter cloth, fuller tables, candles, greenery, music, and processions. Seasonal festivals, especially around Christmas, Easter, and harvest periods, offer moments when the ordinary pattern opens into something a little more luminous. In this way, medieval time is layered. It is not only the time of weather and work, but also the time of remembrance and ritual. The castle is never entirely separate from this larger spiritual world. Bells from a nearby church may drift over the fields. Holy days change the kitchen. Saints' stories are told beside the fire. Manuscripts in the chapel preserve prayers in careful script. Even the quiet act of lighting a candle can feel like part of the day's larger order. Slowly, almost without being noticed at first, afternoon begins to lean toward evening. The light changes before the work does. Stone walls that looked pale in the noon sun now begin to glow in deeper tones. The upper parts of towers catch the last warm brightness, while the lower yard slips into cooler shadow. Birds shift in the trees beyond the walls. In the distance, villagers return from the fields, their tools over their shoulders, their baskets lighter or fuller, depending on the task and the season. Within the castle, some tasks are finished and others begin. Animals are fed again. Stable doors are checked. Wood is carried in for the night. Water is brought where it will be needed before morning. The kitchen reaches another moment of activity as the evening meal is prepared and arranged. In storerooms, doors are closed and barred. In workshops, tools are cleaned and set aside. The castle at this hour can feel especially beautiful. There is a softness in the air, even when the work remains steady. Smoke from the kitchen rises into the evening sky. A faint smell of roasting food drifts through the courtyard. Footsteps on stairs seem slower now, not because the day has no demands, but because its shape is turning toward rest. Children are gathered more closely. In the village below, mothers call them indoors. A few linger by the gate or near the stream, reluctant to leave the fading light.
In the castle chambers, attendants begin simple evening preparations, folding garments, setting basins, checking candles, warming a bed with a heated stone or pan in colder weather. Even these tasks carry a kind of gentleness because they are directed toward comfort at day's end. For travelers who have reached the castle before dark, evening is a welcome hour. Horses are stabled, dusty cloaks are shaken out. A place at the supper table may be found according to rank and custom. News may be exchanged in the hall, but even conversation now tends to settle into a quieter tone. The day outside is ending. Roads are no longer friendly after dark. Inside the walls, light and warmth feel all the more precious. As dusk approaches, the great hall comes alive once more. Torches or candles are made ready if the evening is dark, and the hearth becomes the bright center of the room. The long tables are set again. Trenchers, cups, spoons, knives, and platters take their places. Servants move in practiced order, carrying dishes from kitchen to hall, mindful of rank, timing, and courtesy. The rustle of wool garments, the scrape of benches, and the low blending of voices create a gentle fullness of sound. Supper is one of the most grounding moments in castle life. It is a return from all the scattered work of the day into a shared space of warmth, food, and presence. Depending on the household and the season, the meal may include thick pottage, fresh or coarse bread, cheese, fish, beans, cabbage, roasted fowl, or preserved meat. For the higher table, there may be finer dishes, spiced sauces, white bread, or sweet foods in modest quantity. The food is eaten slowly enough for conversation, though manners and hierarchy still guide the room. Hands are washed before and after. Grace may be said. Salt is valued. Bread may serve not only as food, but as part of the vessel for serving. A dog may sleep beneath the benches. The fire throws shifting light across the walls, over the hangings, and across the faces of those gathered there. Sometimes there is music after the meal, especially if guests are present or the day is one of celebration. A harp may be played. A song may rise lightly into the rafters. A story may be told, not in a loud or theatrical way, but as part of the ancient pleasure of listening together in firelight. A tale of saints, of travel, of family memory, or of old local history may pass from one voice to many ears. For others, the pleasure is simpler still, to sit on a bench after labor, to feel warmth returning to cold hands, to eat from a full bowl, to know that the gates are shut and the day's work has been honorably done. These are deep comforts in a medieval evening. After supper, the castle begins its slow quieting. The brightest activity retreats inward. Some remain in the hall a little longer, talking softly near the hearth. Others withdraw to their chambers. Servants clear tables, gather scraps, bank the fire, wash vessels, and prepare bread or grain for the next day. In the kitchen, the heat remains strong for some time after the meal, and shadows move along the walls as people finish their last duties.
Outside, night is spreading over the fields. The village paths grow dim. The last sounds of day become clearer because there are fewer of them. A cartwheel in the distance, a dog barking once, then settling. Wind moving along the outer wall. The call of an owl from the trees. In a world without streetlights or electric sound, darkness brings a different kind of listening. The castle gate is secured for the night. The porter or guards make their rounds. They check bolts, doors, storage spaces, and passages. These routines are ordinary and reassuring. They belong to the same pattern as lighting the hearth or bringing in water. Night safety is built from habit. Candles and rushlights are used carefully because they are valuable. Rooms are not brightly lit. Instead, light pools in small circles. A candle near a bed, a lantern in a passage, embers glowing red behind a hearth grate. This dimness gives medieval nighttime life a softness that is hard to imagine now. Walls disappear into shadow. Voices naturally grow lower. Even movement changes, becoming more deliberate. In sleeping chambers, people prepare for rest. Cloaks are hung, shoes are set aside, curtains are drawn around better beds to keep out drafts. In humbler spaces, blankets are spread and bodies settle close for warmth. The sounds of sleeping arrangements are simple and familiar. Straw rustling, wood creaking, a murmur of "good night," the soft settling of the house. And above all this, beyond the towers and roofs, the night sky stretches clear and wide. Without modern city lights, the stars would seem brighter than many of us now ever see. They hang over the castle in a dark, immense silence. The moon may silver the battlements and shine on the fields below. Clouds may move slowly over the towers. Frost may gather on the grass, or summer warmth may linger faintly in the stones. This is where the day comes to rest, not in silence alone, but in a quiet woven from embers, distant night sounds, sleeping animals, guarded gates, and the steady confidence of stone walls holding their place beneath the stars. Now that night has gently settled over the castle, we can pause and notice a few of the deeper details that gave medieval castle life its texture, comfort, and quiet order. A castle was never only a single building. It was a small world arranged within walls. Some castles had a strong central keep, thick and tall, where important rooms, storage, and protection were concentrated. Around it, additional buildings filled the bailey, the open courtyard space within the walls. Kitchens, stables, chapels, workshops, storehouses, and guest rooms all had their place. Over time, many castles changed. Stone was added where timber once stood. Towers were raised, walls were repaired, windows were altered. A castle was often the result of many generations of building, adjusting, and caring. The stone itself shaped daily experience. In summer, thick walls could hold coolness, making some rooms pleasantly sheltered from the heat. In winter, the same walls kept the cold close unless fires, hangings, rugs, and wooden screens softened it. This is one reason tapestries and woven wall coverings mattered so much. They were not only beautiful, they added warmth, absorbed drafts, and brought color into rooms of gray and brown stone. Castle stairways, especially in towers, were often narrow and worn smooth by many feet. The steps curved upward in a familiar spiral, touched each day by servants carrying candles, by children moving from chamber to hall, by messengers climbing to upper rooms, and by guards making their rounds. Handrails were not always as we would expect. Instead, the stone wall itself became a guide beneath the hand, cool by day and colder still at night. Windows varied from room to room. Important chambers might have glazed windows if the household was wealthy enough, though glass remained precious. Elsewhere, shutters, cloth coverings, or thin horn panels might keep out wind while still allowing some light. In colder seasons, every opening had to be considered carefully. Light was welcome, but warmth had to be protected. Even the floors told a story. Some were stone, especially in lower and more public spaces. Others were wooden, warmer underfoot, and quieter in private rooms. Rushes or straw could be spread on floors to soften them and help absorb dirt and damp. These coverings had to be changed and refreshed. Once again, comfort depended on regular care. One of the more practical parts of castle life, though rarely celebrated in stories, was the arrangement for waste and cleanliness. Many castles had garderobes, small latrine spaces built into the thickness of the walls or projecting outward. Simple and direct, these were part of the clever, practical planning of castle design. Water channels, drainage, and careful placement all helped the household function. Medieval life was not luxurious, but it was often more organized and thoughtful than people imagine. Firelight, too, deserves its place in this deeper picture. Candles were made from tallow in many ordinary settings, while beeswax candles, cleaner and sweeter in scent, were finer and more costly. Rushlights, made from dried rushes dipped in fat, offered another simple source of light. None of these burned carelessly. Light had to be managed, protected from drafts, and used wisely. To carry a candle through a stone passageway after dark was to carry a small, precious circle of comfort through a much larger shadow. Though much of castle life was physical and practical, there was also a quieter world of thought, prayer, and memory within its walls. In some noble households, books or manuscripts were treasured possessions. These were not numerous, but they were valued deeply. A prayer book, a psalter, a legal record, or a family document might be kept in a chest, wrapped carefully in cloth. Reading was not universal, but literacy existed in noble, clerical, and administrative life more than we sometimes assume. A lord might dictate letters, a lady might read prayers, a chaplain or clerk might maintain accounts and records in a neat, practiced hand.
Writing itself was a slow, careful act. Ink, quills, parchment, sealing wax, each belonged to a world where words were made with effort. A written message carried weight because it had taken time to compose, copy, and deliver. In a castle, records mattered. Land, rents, agreements, marriages, inheritances, and obligations all depended on memory supported by writing. Stories were another form of knowledge. Family history was often remembered aloud. Local events, old alliances, the deeds of grandparents, and the customs of the land were passed by voice as much as by ink. An elder in the household might tell of a winter long ago, of a successful harvest, of a chapel built by an ancestor, or of a journey to a distant court. These tales were not always grand. Often they were simple memories, treasured because they held the household together across time. Music, too, was part of this quieter life of the mind. A melody played in the hall or sung in a chamber could linger in memory long after the sound itself faded. Medieval music in domestic settings could be modest and intimate, soft enough to suit evening, devotional enough to suit the chapel, lively enough to brighten a feast day, yet still carried by human breath and fingers rather than by any great force. The castle chapel offered another kind of learning. There, scripture, prayer, and the calendar of holy observance shaped the imagination of those who lived nearby. Even for people who could not read, faith was taught through sound, image, ritual, and repetition. The same prayers returned. The same feast days came around each year. The same candlelight and quiet words connected one generation to the next. To understand castle life fully, it helps to see it not only across a day, but across a year. Spring came with mud, thawing ground, fresh water,
lambs in the fields, and the first tender greens in the gardens. Paths became soft underfoot, branches budded. Work increased quickly as people turned outward again toward sowing, repairing, planting, and preparing for the months of growth. The castle in spring smelled of damp earth, smoke, and new grass. Windows opened more often. Cloaks were still needed, but the air carried promise. Summer brought long light and full days. The fields around the castle shimmered with grain. Bees moved among herbs and flowers. Laundry dried faster. Travel became easier. Markets were fuller. Castle walls held warmth from the sun, and evenings lingered softly. Yet summer also meant labor. Hay had to be cut. Gardens needed constant care. Food for the colder months was already being thought about and prepared. Autumn was one of the richest seasons of all. Harvest filled barns and storerooms. Apples, pears, nuts, grain, beans, onions, and roots were gathered, sorted, dried, cooked, or stored. There was relief in seeing supplies increase, in hearing barrels filled, in knowing that the household might face winter with readiness. Fires became more welcome. Air sharpened. Mornings arrived with mist over the fields and the scent of leaves beginning to turn. Winter changed everything. Days shortened. The castle closed itself inward. Rooms near the fire became the heart of life. Wool layers thickened. Candles were used earlier. Roads were colder, rougher, quieter. Meals depended more on what had been salted, dried, or stored. Yet winter also brought a particular intimacy. People gathered closer. Work moved toward repair, mending, planning, prayer, and indoor craft. The hall was especially precious then, with firelight moving across the walls and the comfort of company against the cold. The seasons did not merely decorate medieval life, they ruled it gently but completely. Clothing, meals, work, travel, sleep, mood, and household arrangement all changed with the year. To live in a castle was to notice these changes deeply. The angle of light, the smell of rain, the condition of paths, the fullness of granaries, the dryness of firewood, these were not minor details. They shaped the entire experience of living. As we come closer to the end of our journey, it is worth resting for a moment in the details of nighttime life, because this is where the castle becomes most still. Medieval sleep often began earlier than ours, especially in winter, when darkness arrived soon after the evening meal. People did not live under strong artificial light. Their bodies, like their work, followed the sun and season more closely. As the fires were banked and the candles shortened, the castle naturally grew quieter. Beds varied greatly. In the best chambers, a bed might stand on a wooden frame with ropes or slats, supporting a mattress of straw, wool, or feathers. Linen sheets, wool blankets, and fur coverings might be layered according to wealth and weather. Curtains around the bed helped keep in warmth and gave privacy in rooms where servants or attendants might sleep nearby. In more modest spaces, pallets, shared blankets, and simple bedding served the same purpose with less comfort but equal familiarity. Night clothes were plain, if they existed at all. Many slept in shifts, shirts, or simple undergarments. Caps kept warmth in. In colder weather, stones or warming pans heated by the fire could be used briefly to take the chill from the bed before sleep. The pleasure of lying down in warmth after a long day of service or labor must have been one of the quietest joys of the age. Outside the sleeping rooms, some life continued. A watchman moved along the wall or through the gatehouse. The stable shifted softly with the movements of horses. A dog lifted its head, listened, then rested again. wind touched the banners or shutters. If rain fell, it tapped on roof and stone in a slow pattern. If snow came, it muffled the world and deepened the silence. In some places and times, people may have slept in two stretches, with a wakeful interval in the middle of the night for prayer, thought, tending the fire, or simply listening to the quiet before returning to rest. Night was not always a single unbroken sleep, but whether long or divided, it belonged to a world much darker and calmer than our own. And then there was the sky. From the wall walk of the castle, the stars would seem endless. The moon might rest over the fields like a watchful lamp. Frost could shine pale on the grass below. The village would be mostly dark, save for the occasional glow escaping through a shutter crack. The whole countryside would seem to breathe more slowly. So now, as our journey through medieval castle life comes gently to its close, we can leave the castle as it was always meant to be understood, not only as a place of stone and height, but as a place of routine, warmth, duty, and rest. We have walked through its morning quiet, when fires were lit and bread was prepared. We have stood in its courtyards as the day unfolded through work, prayer, craft, and conversation. We have sat in the great hall beneath timber beams while meals gathered the household together. We have watched the afternoon soften into evening, and evening drift into the deep calm of night. And what remains most clearly is not noise, but rhythm. The rhythm of footsteps on stone, the rhythm of water drawn from the well, the rhythm of wool spun between patient fingers, the rhythm of bells, prayers, meals, seasons, and sleep, the rhythm of a household held together by countless small acts of care. In the end, medieval castle life was shaped less by extraordinary moments than ordinary ones. A loaf cooling on a wooden board, a servant carrying candlelight down a passage, a child watching swallows turn above the walls, a lady folding cloth in the fading light, a groom closing the stable for the night, a watchman pausing beneath the stars. These are the quiet truths that lived behind the stone. So now, if you wish, let the castle grow more distant. Let the hall fire burn lower. Let the voices fade into soft echoes. Let the gate stand closed, the courtyard rest in shadow, and the towers rise silently into the moonlit sky. The fields below are silvered with night. The village is still. The horses are calm in their stalls. The chapel candle has nearly burned down. The last ember glows softly in the hearth. And above the old walls the stars remain, steady and serene, watching over the sleeping castle until morning comes again. Good night.